Okay, welcome back to AutoCAD tutorial session 3, part 2. So last time we were adding connections, I've already deleted mine off because I already stated that we're just going to use a core section method, so I deleted them preemptively. I also want you to notice another issue actually, aside from adding a bunch of connections throughout this whole thing instead of using the core section method. Another issue is what we chose as a block. So you see this is one piece. Well, how the heck does this piece go into that piece? So that's really something to consider. Last year's team, we decided to use a flat plate as our design, as shown in this picture over here. So that could be the viable method. So just be careful with that. Whenever you draft, don't forget that, you're not going to know until you 3D model. So maybe when you 3D model, don't forget that when you draft, lines are different from solid objects. And when we get more and more in-depth into 3D modeling, you'll see how useful this is, so you can preemptively see issues like this one. Let's go ahead and select it and type edit. Click OK so that we can add that little plate on top to make it a little bit more realistic, actually. So it's telling me that the plate is 1 inch wide, 3/16 inch thick, and 5 inches long. Let's go ahead and make a box, pretty much. So let's go with L. The L is 5. The width is 1. And the positive Z direction will be 3/16. Perfect. So let's see. Now we need to figure out, I want to say, a healthy way, basically, to figure out, how can we get this so that it's basically in here pretty nicely. You can't really do that in here though. So really, you can use Control X to cut it. We're gonna close it. Discard the changes. Let's go to paste. And let's see if we can find our wherever. Oh, there we go. Let's move it so it's actually attached. Okay. So let's see, how far apart should this be? Well, let's see. What is the distance between these two? It's 3.0526. So let's probably do this. Let's make a line in between. We're going to move this. Or actually, how about this? We'll also draw a line from the midpoint coming out. So it looks like that. And we're going to slide this thing 3D solid. We're going to move it so this midpoint touches perpendicular. Alright? So there you have it. Delete that. We're going to select it, and we're going to do something new that we haven't really done before. And we're going to do something called copy with base, or clipboard copy. So you can go right click, clipboard, copy with base point. It also says you can hit Control-Shift-C. That also works. You can also type in copy base, and that also works. So there's like 3 different ways to do this. I already clicked it, so I'm going to go ahead and choose, let's see, what can we choose? Something they both have to have in common, actually. So I want the center line, or the center point. I'm going to click that. So now that I have it, I'm going to delete the existing one. I'm going to delete this line as well, so we don't need it anymore. I'm going to click this, go to edit again, and now, while I'm in the block editor, I've hit Control V for paste, I can paste right where I want it. And you can keep doing, just hit Control V again, and you get the same base point basically. So we're going to hit close, and then save, and there's your plate. So now this is a little bit more realistic, which is a real huge deal. You really want it to be as realistic as possible. You don't really, well, you're not going to know this unless you already bought the material. But say you didn't buy the material yet, then you wouldn't really know how thick this plate is going to be. So you can always change it later on if you want. So let's go ahead actually. Let's start the quarter section method for well, for what we were doing earlier. So I wanted to have something here, or the connection here, but the issue is that I need a lot of blocks. So if I go to it now, I embed it, and I want to insert my connection piece, right? I could copy paste and do all that nice stuff, but it might be simpler to go to insert and find it if it is already saved as a block. So I know I have an A connection, but if I use this A connection, I don't have a snap on it. There is no rectangle. So what am I going to do about it? Well, let's close this and discard the changes. So what we're going to do is we are going to make blocks out of what we already have. So this might be something preemptive, you know. Perhaps to save time, someone's going to do this before you even get there. So maybe instead of you making the blocks, it could be that someone else is making the blocks for you, and it'll be a lot easier doing that essentially. So we're going to practice this one. So we're going to select it, type block, block, and we're going to call this A connection, which it is normally named as an A connection because it's predefined that way. And it's called a 1 square because it has that snap that I need. And let's choose this, that's our insertion point, and then let's go ahead and select this, type block, let's call this connection B, and it's going to be a 1 square as well. For a B connection, let's go ahead and select that as our base point. So now, let's go back to our end top decking. Set it, not bend it. Enter. Okay, let's get into our 3D view. Go to Insert, go to Block, and you're going to scroll down, and you'll notice actually that you have your connection here. So I need an A connection. So I'm going to insert it there. So I need it rotated actually. So I'll hit 3 rotate. And I need it so it can go right on the face. Let's pick that one. Ortho on. Bang. So now let's move this whole thing. That snap to that snap. And let's make a copy of that. Escape, close and save. And now all of these are going to change with it, which is super useful. Again, I can't emphasize the importance of the quarter section method. So why don't you go ahead and try to fill out the rest of this. So we'll see you in the next part.